I picked up one tub of Country Crock off a Kroger shelf last week and turned it over before it ever touched my cart. Water is the first word on that label, not oil, water. The front of the tub promises 0 grams of cholesterol per serving, and I want you to remember that number because it is not the question anyone should actually be asking. I'll tell you by the end of this whether that tub earns a place in your refrigerator. But first, look at what comes right after the water, because that is where this whole story actually starts, and it is not where I expected it to go. Before I go any further, tell me something. Which tub sits in your refrigerator door right now? Country Crock? Blue Bonnet? I can't believe it's not butter? Something else entirely? And how long has it actually been since you read what's in it? Put the name in the comments below. I read every single one, and I'm often surprised by what people admit they've never checked. Country Crock has been sitting in American refrigerator doors since 1979, and it built that spot the same way most tub margarine did, by positioning itself as the responsible choice against butter, back when cholesterol was treated like the villain of every kitchen conversation. That is not a small thing. An entire generation was told, by doctors and by advertising in the same breath, that trading butter for a tub like this one was doing their heart a favour. I grew up watching that exact trade happen in real kitchens around me, watching women my mother's age quietly swap one dish for another because someone in a white coat had told them to. I'll be honest, it took me years to separate what was marketing dressed up as medicine from what was actually true. Do you check the price tag before you check the ingredient panel? Or is it the other way round for you? Because the tag on this one runs somewhere between $6 and $12, depending on where you shop, and the panel underneath tells a very different story than the tag ever does. This is not just a Country Crock question either. Walk down that same dairy case and you'll find Blue Bonnet, Fleischmann's, Smart Balance, and I can't believe it's not butter, all making some version of the same promise, in some version of the same tub. I'm starting with Country Crock because it's the one most likely sitting in your own door right now, not because it's uniquely bad. It's simply the most familiar face in a very crowded case, the one nearly everyone's hand reaches for without thinking twice about it. I did not grow up with a tub like this one anywhere in the house. What I grew up with was cream sitting in a cool pantry, skimmed off the top of the milk, and a jar that got shaken until somebody's arm got tired. There was no ingredient panel to read, because there was nothing on that jar except cream and a little salt. I'm not telling you that to romanticize the past. Plenty about that life was harder than anyone needs today. I'm telling you because it's the reason I still read every panel before I say a word about what's inside it. I learnt to judge food before I learnt to judge anything else, and that part of me never left. So I held the tub in my hand before I ever opened the lid. It's lighter than a block of butter the same size, cold and a little springy under the plastic, built to spread straight out of the refrigerator without any fight at all. The front says, buttery spread. The front says 0 grams of cholesterol. The front says nothing at all about where that softness actually comes from, or what's holding it together at room temperature. When was the last time you actually flipped a tub over before it went into your cart? Most people don't. I understand why. The front is designed to answer the question before you think to ask it yourself. I turned this one over anyway, and there it was. 9 ingredients, printed small, in the exact order they're actually used. A short list, shorter than I expected, which is its own kind of surprise before we even get to what's on it. Purified water is listed first, which means by weight, water is the single largest thing in this tub. That's not unusual for a spread built to feel light and whip easily, And on its own, I don't count it against the product. Water isn't hiding here. It's doing an honest job holding the emulsion together. Read that again, though. The first ingredient in a butter alternative is water. Now, I want to be fair about something. That's not deceptive. It's printed right there in plain sight for anyone who bothers to look. It's just not what most people assume they're buying by the pound when they set it in their cart. Second on the list is soybean oil. And this is where the actual fat in this product comes from. Soybean oil is a liquid vegetable oil, cheap to produce at scale, and it's the base fat sitting in a huge share of the processed food in an American kitchen. Salad dressing, boxed crackers, and this tub, all drawing from the same barrel. Do you know which oil is first on your own spread at home? Because that one word tells you more about a product than the entire front label combined. The plain conclusion here is simple. This is not dairy fat wearing a butter name. It's a bean oil engineered to behave like one. That's my verdict on the base of Country Crock. It is an oil spread. That is the whole label, right there in 2 words, no matter what the tub calls itself. Third and fourth are palm kernel oil and palm oil, added to bring back the firmness that a purely liquid oil can't hold on its own. Have you ever looked up where the palm oil in your kitchen actually comes from? I have, and it changed how I look at a tub like this one. Palm oil is among the most heavily farmed crops on Earth, grown at a scale that has reshaped entire regions where it's produced. That is not an accusation against Country Crock specifically, since palm oil sits in a huge share of the packaged food on any grocery shelf, this one included by circumstance rather than exception. But it does mean the firmness in this tub isn't coming from cream the way it would in my own kitchen. It's coming from a second oil doing the job the first oil couldn't manage on its own. Salt comes next, and there's nothing to untangle there. It's salt. It does exactly what salt has always done in every kitchen I've ever stood in, and I have no complaint to file against it. Sometimes the fairest thing I can say about an ingredient is nothing at all. Soy lecithin follows, an emulsifier, meaning its only job is keeping the water and the oils from splitting apart the moment the tub sits out on your counter. My own mother's butter never needed an emulsifier because cream doesn't separate from itself. It's already one thing, whole and unbothered by sitting on a table. A blended oil and water product doesn't have that advantage on its own, so it borrows one from a lab instead. That's not a crime. It is proof, plainly, that this is an engineered product rather than a simple one, built to hold together rather than born already whole. Vinegar shows up next for a touch of tang, standing in for the natural tang of cultured cream. It's a small thing, and an honest one. Vinegar is at least a real, recognizable ingredient rather than a manufactured stand-in for something else entirely. I could pull a bottle of it off my own shelf and tell you exactly what's in it. That's more than I can say for what comes right after it on this label. Then come natural flavors, an ingredient the label is legally allowed to use without ever telling you what's actually inside it. That phrase can cover dozens of different compounds behind 2 vague words, and I've learned to treat it as a blank space rather than an answer. I trusted labels exactly like this one myself for years before I understood that natural flavor is a legal category, not an ingredient you could actually name if I asked you to point at it. Would you trust a food that has to be flavored on purpose to taste like a different food entirely? Last on the list are vitamin A palmitate and beta-carotene. And this is the part of the label that says the quiet part out loud. Beta-carotene is added purely for color because a blend of soybean oil, palm oil and water has no yellow of its own to give. Real butter gets its color from what the cows eat out in the field. This tub gets its colour from an additive dropped in on purpose to make a bean oil and water product look like something churned from cream. And here's the part I did not expect walking into this reading. I assumed the palm oil would end up being the worst item on this list, the one I'd spend the most time on. It isn't. The colour and flavour additives bother me more because they exist for exactly one reason: to make this product look and taste like something it structurally is not, rather than to nourish anyone eating it. This is also where that number from the very start comes back around. 0 grams of cholesterol was the entire pitch that convinced my mother's generation to make this exact swap, back when heart health messaging told anyone past midlife that butter was the enemy, and a tub like this one was the responsible, modern choice instead. I remember watching that message land in real kitchens, at real tables, spoken with real conviction by people who trusted the number on the front more than the list on the back. Nobody in that generation was reading past 0 cholesterol, down to the beta-carotene line sitting quietly underneath it. If you're the kind of person who wants to know what's actually in your own kitchen before somebody markets a version of health at you, that's exactly who I make these for. That's the only qualification anyone needs to keep watching to the end. Not a farm, not a fortune, just a willingness to turn the tub over and actually read what it says. Now, I want to be fair about something else, because a one-sided review isn't worth much to anyone, mine included. This tub is not hiding its ingredient list. It's printed right there. 9 items, nothing buried, and nothing I had to go searching for outside the package to find. It's gluten-free. It's kosher. It spreads cold straight out of the refrigerator without tearing bread. And at somewhere around $6 to $12, depending on where you shop, it was never positioned as a luxury item to begin with. That matters. A product that's honest about being an affordable, mass-market spread deserves a different kind of judgment than one pretending to be something premium it isn't. I also want to say plainly that nobody needs to feel foolish for keeping a tub like this in their own refrigerator. Real butter costs more. It doesn't spread as easily straight from the cold, and for a family working with a tight grocery budget, $6 that stretches across a whole month is a real, practical consideration, not a small one. My argument was never that everyone who buys this tub has made some kind of mistake. My argument is narrower than that. You should know exactly what you're spreading on your toast. And right now, most people simply don't. Availability and exact pricing will vary by your own store and region. And ingredient lists do get reformulated over time without much announcement to the people buying them. So what's printed on the tub sitting in your refrigerator door right now is the one that actually matters here, not the one I happen to be reading from today. What's the one ingredient on your own spread that you've genuinely never looked up, not once, in all the years you've been buying it? A trusted name on the front of a tub tells you what a company wants you to feel while you're walking past it on the shelf, nothing more. It doesn't tell you what's actually holding the product together underneath the lid, and it was never designed to. Packaging is built to answer a feeling, not a question. The ingredient panel is the only part of that tub built to answer the question instead, and it is almost always the part people skip. Does a longer ingredient list ever make something feel more trustworthy to you? Or does it make you more suspicious the longer it gets? For me, the label is the only part of the package that isn't trying to sell me anything at all. It's just quietly listing what's true, whether or not that truth helps the marketing sitting 3 inches above it. Tell me one word, buy or skip, for Country Crock. based on everything I just read out loud to you today. And if you've got a different tub sitting in your own refrigerator door right now, name it in the comments below. I'll probably end up reading that one next, so choose carefully. I go in the order the comments give me, and I've been surprised more than once by which brand people are most nervous to have read out loud. Remember that number from the very start? 0 grams of cholesterol? It was the right question, aimed at the wrong ingredient the entire time. And now you can see exactly why. The real question was always what's holding the water and the oil together underneath that promise. And now you know the answer. An emulsifier, a colour additive, and a flavour nobody on the label ever has to name out loud. Remember the water too. The very first word printed on that ingredient list, exactly where I started this whole reading. That's exactly what this tub still is at its core. Water and oil, quietly built to imitate something it was never going to become, no matter how long it sits on the shelf. My verdict is this: plain and final. No hedging left in it. I don't buy the tub anymore, and I haven't in years. What sits in my own refrigerator instead is cream and salt, shaken in a jar until it separates into butter on its own. No emulsifier required. Because real cream never once needed one to begin with. I haven't bought a jar of margarine since I left home, and I don't plan to start again now.